Continuing on with MT8LT1, let's take a look at problem number 7. Here we have this triangle. We're supposed to find x, y, and z. X is the height. We know the hypotenuse of the big triangle is 25. We know the leg of one of the triangles is 6. Well, that means the leg of the other triangle is 19. Then, off of our theorem, from our seminar, we know the height, x, is the geometric mean between the parts of the hypotenuse. In other words, x squared equals 19 times 6. I always like to write the geometric mean as squared, but we could also say it's the square root of 19 times 6. Well, let's take 19 times 6 in our calculator. And we get 114. So x is the square root of 114. We can find that approximate answer right now. So if we take the square root of 114, we get about 10.68. I wonder if I can simplify that. Because if I take 114 and I divide it by 2, so we take 114, whoops, too much there. 114 divided by 2, well, that's 57. You can't simplify that anymore. Well, let me try. 57, 3 goes into it. But I think that's 19, isn't it? 57 divided by 3 is 19. We don't have any partners here, so it doesn't simplify. So I'm just going to say, oh, the exact answer is the square root of 114. Now the leg, y in this case, is the geometric mean between the entire hypotenuse and the part of the hypotenuse that's adjacent to y. So in other words, y squared equals 6 times 25. Well, if I take the square root, I'll get y equals, and I notice the square root of 25, well, that's 5. So I get 5 radical 6. And of course, you can write that as a decimal if you want. So if I take 5 times the square root of 6, we get 12.25. So y, we know, is 5 times the square root of 6. Now we could find z in a couple different ways. Since we know y and we know the hypotenuse, we can use Pythagorean theorem. Or we could use the same formula I just used for y, because z is the leg. So in other words, z squared equals the entire hypotenuse, which is 25, times the part of the hypotenuse that's adjacent to z, which in this case is 19. So in other words, z is the square root of 25 times 19. So z, the square root of 25 is 5, so I get 5 times the square root of 19. And once again, if you want to write that as a decimal, more power to you. So if we take 5 times the square root of 19, we get 21.79. And that's what we get for problem 7.